Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review episodes 3 and 4 of Hellbound. So, thank you, anybody, for going on and watching the very first, not only pilot, but then second episode of the show, and then coming on here and continuing to watch these reviews. I really do appreciate it. So, one, I want to thank everybody for not kind of jumping on me if I missaid something or ill pronounced something, because I knew that was going to be a bound to happen thing. I knew I was going to mess up some kind of information somewhere, or probably ill pronounce a name somewhere down the road. One thing that I want to possibly clear up from the last episode, or just kind of rebuttal that I might have slipped or forgot about within the first two episodes. So, one thing that I want to mention is Detective Min. Her mother was to have gotten a diagnosis that she was to be dying. And that is probably the only real thing that I was to have probably forgotten the story about from the last episode. And if I didn't, then good, because but I just didn't focus upon that, I don't believe. And so when going on into here, we're going to kind of continue with Min and her mother at some point in this episode, or these episode spoilers. So that's kind of a teeing up for you for this one. I also wanted to clear up that I probably just ended up calling the Hell's Angels. I just called them like decrees through the first two episode review. So those are actually, I guess, to be called the Hell's Angels, and I completely forgot about that. And like the Hellbound, like muscle-bound Hulk-like characters are to be just demons that are to go on and collect these souls. So, really, if the first two episodes were not interesting enough, these next two episodes here are really like, man, this show is getting really interesting. Brutal at parts, really violent, but also it gets really interesting. And really enjoying this show, especially these two episodes. Even though we bizarrely, in episode 4, have this kind of weird restart of a thing, where all of a sudden we're going into someone else's story, and then I guess we're just going to carry that on for the rest of this show for whatever reason, because they were taking just 6 episodes, and I'm like, why wouldn't you have just focused on certain people? But I guess they just figured that first half just finished up, and so now we're just going to go into a completely different story, which I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. Also, the one thing that I wanted to clear up is that the face painted characters, I guess, were to be called the Arrowhead Gang. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so like those guys actually had a name. And plus also, you had the one kind of streamer guy that was, of course, to have this like face paint also. So I guess he might have been a Arrowhead member, because he was to consistently say Arrowhead, Arrowhead consistently. So, especially when we hit into episode 4, there's probably going to be some points and sometimes where I'm not going to know who everyone is, or I might just kind of figure out how to kind of dance around me not being sure of someone's name at some points here. And so we also have these guys in this episode who are to be wearing these white-teethed masks, and they're to be kind of patrolling this area, and I'm not quite exactly sure who they were. But then you end up kind of seeing these characters presented again upon this episode. So but like really enjoying the show. We have immediately where we kind of arrive in to episode 3, where all of a sudden we start having characters like Jung, who is kind of turning into this kind of god-like character where everybody's to kind of lick his boots, because it seems like he is to be the only one who is to have answers supposedly than anyone else. But it's just the fact that he was to have realized this was to be happening before everyone else did, and it seemed like he had a much more head start on things than everyone else was. And so a very interesting story that we kind of go into this third episode to just kind of wrap up the first part of this story. And then the fourth episode just kind of goes onto its own path. And man, that freaking baby in episode 4, just that son of a... Anyway, that baby, I tell you, I don't know what it is about that baby in episode 4, but that baby. So with that said, it seems that we, like, between episodes 3 and episode 4, it seems like there's weirdly some time that has, like, to pass through these 2 episodes, and there might not have been any that had passed seemingly at all, but it just feels that way. We no, I think I'm fine. So for a lot of people, they're just like, okay, like, I'm still not quite sure if I'm going to invest in this show. It's only 6 episodes. Like, really, for me, I probably should have gone on and watched the whole thing in one day and then called it a wrap. Which that's what I'll just do tomorrow. Or if it seems that I have some time to kill, then I'll go into watching the last 2 episodes and then just kind of finishing it up here. So if you kind of see me in the same kind of clothes and shirt and garb and whatever, it's basically because I decided to go and double up and just kind of finish up the show, because it seems that people are to be much interested in this, which I greatly appreciate. Thank you for hearing me blah 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 about any of this stuff. Or more than likely, the first video will be really successful, and then not a lick of any interest will be in this one, which is perfectly okay. But hey, thank you. I appreciate it. So, like, I want to think if there's anything that there is to much really be, like, I don't think there's much of teeing it up if I am to go further on and talk about this. Like, I feel like it's spoiling the show for this one. Like, the first one is to still kind of cover the first half of the story, and to, like, it doesn't, the part where it kind of cliffhangers us onto the last episode, it covers right away in to this episode, so it doesn't feel like we have to go back to that, or there's a weird build up to that. It just covers that right away. So yeah, like, as if we were going to, like, get this huge surprise that the girl just gets completely, like, dissolved of her decree or anything like that. So going on to this episode, let's just go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers. But this story gets really creative. Even at one point, then in the 4th episode, we're starting to see people really try to figure out a way around this whole thing. And that's the thing that I'm starting to just be like, man, the show is getting really creative. and like showcasing that not everybody is to seemingly be avoidanced. It's probably not a word. There are people that are to have difficulties being able to avoid being bound to hell. So, with that said, let's just go into that double five. Let's just spoil this go into this. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for otherwise being a part of this channel. And let's go into it. Spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time you need to spoil this episode. So, very beginning, we of course cover what is to happen to Parks. So, the VIPs are of course watching on as Parks is to basically get burnt like a crispy critter by the, of course, demons. Like, I really want them to just have their actual own name, because I don't want to just call them demons. It just seems like these characters are such a unique like thing that they should have a legitimate name that is to be unique for this story, but they don't. They're just called demons, and the Decree character, who they start to call like a decree, but I guess it's an angel that is to tell these people that they are hellbound. So the demons are to appear and are to go and grab Min and chuck her up against this wall and are to burn her and are to consume her and are to kill her off. And so we have Hoon kind of running in and guns a-blazing, firing into these demons, but what good does it really do? Nothing. Basically, they could have probably emptied out a whole arsenal against these demons, and it would not have done any good. So, these demons are jumping where the VIPs are, and they go into their hell portal to go back and had collected their soul for that day. So all of a sudden we have every single like VIP and every person around that area with their signs and with them like wanting this girl to confess, and she really doesn't, but maybe afterwards she kind of leaves some kind of note or some kind of ditty or some kind of something. So everyone is to all decide to go and bow down after this whole moment, like believing that all of this is legitimate and real. And so these detectives are all looking over at these people all bowing, and so we weirdly turn around and start to have it seemingly the society going against these police officers. Because it seems that the Arrowhead gang is to go off and start to beat and find and beat these police officers to death, because that seems to be their goal. And so we have in the beginning of this episode, we have Jung who is doing this interview, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to start making this guy be like, hey, the guy with all of the answers. And so now he is to be, like, I'm sure he's getting money for this interview and so on and so forth. So that way he can kind of profit off this whole thing. And so even though he's to supposedly mention that his team is to be this, like, the new truth is to be these rich people anyways. Luckily for him, right? But we just have Jun, who we had found out through this interview that Jun had gone on to save some kid from some burning building X amount of time before, and then Jun had also saved some woman from being stabbed by some guy. And so I guess Jun had kind of negotiated with this guy to drop this knife and for them to both hug it out. And so, like, man, like, John, you've really done some, like, impressive things in your time. And so John is like, well, yeah, like, so Jun is really depressed that, like, it seems like he knows better than everybody, and that Jun is to tell, like, people kind of the new laws or a new Bible that they should follow. And so, like, wow, yeah, like, this is gonna, I guess, be a new Bible or a new, like, thing that people are gonna have to follow so that way they can avoid being bound for hell. And June is just like, well, yeah, like, why is it that it had taken, like, this kind of event for us to now, like, do this kind of thing? Shouldn't it have been a no-brainer? But, like, I guess not. So, uh, we push on, and so June is to kind of go and focus out to show certain parts of his clothing, and so we have Hoon, who is watching on and noticing something from, of course, June's closet, which gets him very aggravated to the point of him wanting to actually go to this guy's, like, apartment and tear through his closet, going and finding a certain thing of clothing. So, uh, so Hoon is to run off to get to this guy's apartment place, and so we have a bunch of people who are trying to prevent Hoon from getting to this chairman's place. Like, they just, like, hey man, what are you doing here? Like, you better not, disrupt June's whatever he's doing, like, heaven forbid, right? So Hoon is going on, and it seems that he cannot get into June or Jung's room. So Hoon goes, and he is to take this, like, crowbar-ish, like, thing and bash this door in. And at one point, hilariously, the door is to easily be a thing that could be opened, but, like, Hoon is still banging on this door to get this lock off, this doorknob off this door. Hoon goes in, thumbs through this closet, and then leaves, while a lot of people are starting to beat Hoon down and to kick him and whatever. All of a sudden, Hoon's phone comes falling out of his pocket, and so everyone is to start to realize that Jung is calling Hoon, and they're like, hey guys, the chairman, he's on the cell phone. So everybody just starts backing up weirdly. Hoon answers the phone to now have Jung have his face upon this phone kind of shown to all the people. And so Hoon shows this guy's face to these people. And so Jung is telling these people that Hoon, like, needs to be, like, protected, and is to, like, just let him go about his business, so that way Hoon could make it to Jung, so that way they can talk. So while that's happening, let's go and let's talk about Min. So Min is to go and see her mother, and is to go off and take her mother, I believe, to the hospital. And, or no. Min is to take her mother, I think, to her police station, but then she's forced to have to go to the hospital because both Min and her mother ends up getting beaten the F up by these metal bats from this Arrowhead gang. So, because Min goes home and sees her mother and is to get this email stating that supposedly Jung had gotten a decree like some time ago, roughly about 20 years in time. And so it seems that this is coming from a reliable source. And so now Min is to go to her office to go and try to see if her partner is to be there to find her precinct vandalized. And so now Min is calling her partner, who I believe is called Sue, because I kind of heard like a tail end of this guy's name. And so now Min is calling Sue, and Sue has been beaten to a battered pulp, but he has the ability to, I guess, answer this phone before he dies. And so Min is to mention that she has a reliable source that is to have told her, like what I just said, where Jun had gotten a decree some 20 some odd years ago, and so she wanted to go and tell this guy about it, but this guy is going to die soon. So Min is to head back into her car, where her mother had gotten by these Arrowhead gang, pulled out of her car and been beaten to death by these metal aluminum baseball bats, which I'm like, good God, this looks so brutal. But I guess that's just the way, of course, that it's like good acting and so on and so forth, where they probably painted these bats to look like they're actual aluminum and whatever, but they're probably like wiffle ball, and so it probably doesn't actually hurt and whatever, but still, like, you're still getting hit possibly by something, or if not, it just looks really good. So Min comes back to also get assaulted by these guys, but she doesn't get killed off. And so Min is to go and grab her mother and rush her to the hospital to go into the place where her mother is to be held, to find out that her mother is to be dead anyways. And so Min is to walk off and go and find her source and meet him in person and find out that it's some pastor. And so this pastor is to have this video clip of both this pastor and Jung's conversation. And so now let's go back to Hoon. So Hoon is to desperately go and ask Jung where his daughter is, because that's all that really matters to him. And so Jung is at this location and is to tell Hung, well, here's the thing, like, I will go and I'll tell you exactly where your daughter is, but, like, you have to give me some time here, because I am going to get collected by these demons because my time is up. Because Jung, who, when he was a young lad, was to be told 20 years from that time that he was to go and get bound for hell. And so I think Jung doing the things that he was to have done in his past was to maybe help him die sooner. But even if someone is to die sooner, we even still have a workaround for the demons to figure out that, which I think was really just clever by whoever writes this show, or the people that write this show. So some clever people, but also like when it comes down to it, usually a Korean show. No offense to whoever, um, like Korean shows are really clever. Like every single time, I'm like, oh, this is another Korean show. Oh, of course, because it's really like cleverly written for whatever reason. No offense to non-Korean shows. It's just look at a number of big, massive hits on a Netflix. It's usually because of some Korean show half of the time, um, and so on and so forth. But no offense to anywhere else of anyone who is to do a show at some point in time. No offense to that. So, where was I? So, Jung is to tell Hoon, well, hey, like, you can do one of two things. You can go and publicize that my body is going to get collected here, and maybe you'll get like some kind of thing out of this after you go and you post this, or you can leave my death to be a secret, and you can hide the fact that I was to have gotten killed here and my soul was collected. So Hun decides to leave this all in secret and is to not tell anybody that that Jung was to get his like his body collected by these demons. So Jung is to not fight these demons, and so they end up taking him and they end up killing him. And so the last thing that Jung is to tell Hoon is to like, hey, like, can you please take care of my remains? Like, at least do that for me. And so Hoon, of course, is to watch Jung die because there's nothing they can do. And so after that, we have Min, who is to be talking to this pastor and is to be hearing this video of Jung mentioning about this decree that he had received 20 some odd years ago. And so Min is just telling this pastor, it's like, well, hey, can you like give me this like recording? And the pastor is just like, well, like I deleted it. And Min's like, well, why? Because the pastor is like, well, because I am going to replace Jung after he is to, of course, die and have this decree being done with him. And so I am going to take his place as the head of the new truth. And like me getting rid of Min was to be the last thing that the pastor was to do. But the pastor was to tell Min, it's like, well, here's the thing though, like, I'm really not going to get my hands dirty because I'm a pastor, so someone else is going to do that for me. So Min is to kind of leave this place to find these Arrowhead members, and so now we get them beating Min to death and killing her off, and leaving her by these rocks somewhere for her body, I guess, to just rot. So maybe making it look like a suicide that she jumped or whatever herself. So really that covers a bulk of episode 3 here. And so let's just get into episode 4, because episode 4 is to just kind of transition into a completely different story, and we focus on this character called Bay, who is to be some network producer. And so the very beginning of episode 4, we have this whole kind of documentary kind of thing where they have kind of showcased with the new truth like what has been going on recently and some kind of recapping of possible previous episodes. But we also find out in episode 4 that someone had decided to end their own life before they were to get these demons to collect his soul. And so, weirdly, we have this soul who had gotten resurrected and is to look like some ghostly spirit walking through this area. And this demon just goes and collects him and then takes him down to hell. And I'm just like, oh my god, that is such a brilliant thing. I'm like, oh my god. So this guy tried to take his own life, but we just have the demons that are like, oh no, it's not going to work that way. Like, so you're just going to have to get resurrected or just be a spirit, and we're going to come after you and we're going to take you anyway. So, like, there's no way out of this. You're going to die. So they're recording this and they're telling us these stories and everything that's kind of just happened in this documentary. And so they watch this documentary, and so this new truth guy who, not quite sure, Yoji G is to mention that he doesn't like the music at one part of this documentary where it was to make the sinner look bad, to where they would feel sympathetic about his sin. There was to be this one part where this girl was to confess about her father's sin, mentioning that he had certain kind of horrible videos on his laptop and that were of course to be some sex kind of thing, and that possibly like this girl had outed her father as the sinner and that he should deservingly go to hell. So like, I thought that part was just like, wow, like really getting some interesting things in episode 4. So J, am I saying that somewhere ballparkingly correct? So people can correct me later, that's perfectly fine. I know I'm going to ill pronounce a lot of stuff here, so I'm going to try as best as I can to pronounce anything, but stuff's going to get lost in translation, I'm assuming. So G is to just mention that the song at the one part of the documentary just doesn't fit right. And I'm like, well, go ahead and watch like Ghostbusters Afterlife and just kind of see that they just kind of put one thing of song throughout a bulk of that movie, even if it fits or not. It's just like, hey man, we only got this one song from off of this video game thing, so might as well just use this crazily. So, because that's all they got for like Ghostbusters music is just really just 2 whole songs, like the theme and the that's all they got. Like that's all the Ghostbusters soundtrack really has. So Bay is to just be kind of frustrated with this new truth guy who is like, why don't you guys just get your own network? Like, I'm so sick of you guys nitpicking about every little microscopic thing, and they're just like, well, hey man, like that's what they like, so like let's lick their boots basically. And so Bei and Wong are just to like be these co-producers that are just having to deal with this crap. And so Bei is just like, God, I'm just so sick of this. And so we have the one guy who is to be licking their boots and is to be so mad that Bei is not doing the same. And Bei's like, whatever. Like, so when we're looking at it, any number of these people could be chosen by the demons and the Hell's Angel and whatever to go and be sucked into the 10th level of hell. Ghostbusters reference. I don't know why I'm doing that right now. I just saw Afterlife, so like basically in my mind, everything that's kind of popping in my brain is just the original movie Ghostbusters related, or the original first two films. It's just be really just from that, because I'm just like, man, I just want to rewatch those again. It's been such a long time since I've rewatched those, and I'll rewatch those, and I'm like, man, they were so good. Those original two films were just so good, just undeniably. So, and I've seen them hundreds of times, and I have no problem seeing them again. So, my apologies, I had something hanging there. So, we go in this fourth episode, and so now we're focusing on this character called Bei. I guess Hong is just hung out to dry, or Hoon? Yeah, Hoon. Hoon is just hung out to dry. We're focusing now on Bei and his story. And so we have Bei, who is to get this weird uh, fishing spot like card for whatever goofy reason. And so Wong is to supposedly, or Wong, Bei is to need to go to run off to make it to his wife's bedside because she's having a baby. And so Bei is just like, man, like I should be there with my wife and like see my kid for more than like 10 whole seconds. Like I need to be there. And but instead Bei is to have to focus on doing some stupid last minute editing that is going to make him have to pull in some overtime or something like that to just get this completed. So Bei is to go off and is to finally finish this stupid editing job. And so Bei is to make its way to his wife. Like, yeah, let's scramble to get to the hospital because I just want to see my wife. And while Bei is driving, he is to see like the demons like sculpted in some spot somewhere. And he's like, God, these new truth people, they're really just like they're putting the fear in God into people, because Jung was to mention that he wanted to have people just live in fear like he did while he was waiting 20 years to be collected by these demons. That the horror that he felt while forcibly like waiting for his time, and no matter what he had done, like he was going to hell anyway. So the guy that he had technically killed and just burnt to a crisp, he was already going to hell anyways. So it's not like he was all of a sudden going to get a decree saying like, oh, go to hell now, because he was technically already going there. So what he had done, murdering that guy, didn't really change much. It was just saying like, hey man, like you just have one extra thing that you're gonna have to like pay for. So And plus, also, I guess we don't really know what actually happened to Hoon's daughter. Like, I guess that really didn't really matter, did it? Anyways, so Bay is rushing to the hospital wanting to see his wife, but instead we all of a sudden have one of Bay's co-workers' wives calling him to say, like, well, hey, like, uh, Wong didn't come home tonight. Like, is he with you? And Bay is just like, well, no. Like, why are you asking? And so it seems that this guy who is to be named Wong is to supposedly been found out that this guy was to have these gambling problems. And so his wife is to have these kind of loan sharks kind of knocking at their door. And so Bay is just like, okay, like, is this guy having some kind of like midlife crisis or something like that? Like, after he goes and hangs up from this woman who's to say, like, hey, don't worry about this. Like, definitely don't worry about it. Like, I think it's all going to just work itself out. Maybe you're going to find out that this isn't what it really is at all. So, Wong, like, we have Bay who has many of ideas bouncing around in his head about Wong, where it's like, did Wong have an affair? Like what's really going on with this guy? So Bay forcibly decides to head all the way out to this fishing spot that he gets this card from. He's like, man, this fishing spot, there's something about it. So Bay is to go all the way out to this fishing spot, and there are to be some kind of guards there that are just like, hey man, like, why are you driving all the way out here? And so this guy's like, well, hey, I'm a network producer, and I just have some clips to just go and shoot here, and like I just need some fresh air, and so I decided, like, two birds, one stone. And they're like, dude, you do realize this is like in the way off of where you actually originally were, so why are you going out this far? And the guy's like, I just need to go here. Like, I'm just like, let me just go in here. And they're like, okay, fine. So Bay is to go further in here to find Wong, and Wong is to confess that he had gotten a decree and these demons are going to collect him. So Wong decided to come to this spot to have these demons get him. And so these demons all of a sudden arrive from out of this water and kind of surprise us. And so one of the demons ends up like slicing through the back of Wong's chest. And I'm like, man, this looks so cool. And so these demons go and they take Wong's soul, and now you just see like a piece of Wong's body just kind of floating in the water. And so we have these people going on and collecting Wong's body, and are to come out there and are to tell like Bay, like, hey, don't tell anybody what you saw here today, and so on and so forth. And so it seems like these people are to be from some kind of like secret society of something, who I guess are to try to like figure this out and whatever. And so we see this girl called Song So, I believe, and she has this like scar upon her face. And so we have this one guy who tells this other guy who's to kind of reveal his face, like, hey man, you shouldn't have revealed your face to this guy. And they're thinking, it's like, well, maybe this guy can actually be trusted, maybe we can use him somehow. And so like, yeah. So Bay is to go off to make his way back to his wife because there's nothing else he can really do here. So Bae heads back to his wife. And so we find out that Bae's baby is to have sent a decree to him, or to the baby, that the baby is now bound for hell. I'm like, yeah, baby, you freaking deserve dying. Like, come on, baby, just get sent down there. Why did they give him 3 days? He should be given, like, 1. Like, just take him down there. That baby, like, the longer that he's on this planet, the worse it's gonna be for this baby. And, like, this baby really needs to just quickly just be sent down there. Because this baby is creating some severe chaos. Some ridiculous anarchy. Like, this baby said goo goo gaga, and it was like, mother, this guy, he is just spewing all kinds of profanity. This baby, whether it's a girl or a guy, I don't know. It doesn't really matter because in 3 days, it's going to hell. So, and it deserves to go. No, it doesn't. It's a joke. It's a baby going to hell. That seems just ridiculous. But that just kind of tells you that no one is safe for whatever reason. And so we have Bae's wife that's like, how is it that I just had given birth to a baby that deserves to go to hell? Like, what did I do? What had happened? Like, we're almost kind of concerned. It's like, well, is all of a sudden weirdly, did the baby, like, do something to the mother to maybe all of a sudden have her die from childbirth and it's a delayed reaction? Like, what's going on here? Like, the baby was, like, stubbornly like, hey, man, I'm going to go and do something awful before I get out. You know what I mean? I don't know. I thought that was so goofy, but it was like, okay, a baby immediately going and being sent, like, and like that's where I was kind of going with it, where it's like, how are they going to get really creative with like the whole thing of certain people being sent? How are they going to how severe are the crimes really going to be? And so, like, I'm just expecting at some point just everybody having to be sent down at some point. And, like, it won't even make sense anymore, but I just think everyone is just forcibly going to go. And so it's going to be, like, a kind of a very interesting way of how this show ends. But with that said, I think I'm going to get out of here to try to make as short as video as I can. If there's anything that I forgot about, I probably will be doing a rebuttal within the next review. So get ready for that rebuttal that's coming to theaters near you. If that is to happen, if I forgot something or if I said something incorrectly, which is bound to happen. But otherwise, I think I feel like I'm okay with this one. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this whole show so far. Even if, like, you went and watched the last 2 episodes, like, at this point, I'm going to probably watch the last 2 episodes soon anyways, so, like, you can go and talk about how you felt about this whole season. And I'll be like, all right, great, like, cool, like, because some people might have their own thoughts about this show and how they probably thought, like, man, this show is weird, but I don't know, I just couldn't stop watching it, kind of thing. So let me know how you felt about it. Let me know your opinions, like, whether it's to be like, I don't like this show, and that's okay too. You can have that You can have a barrage of different opinions about this, or maybe even break down how other episode, or how you could have thought to have gone and done this show a different way or a different approach and whatever. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.